Okay, so today I'm going to model the Show What You Know Eras and Events Part 4 assignment, right? Show What You Know, Eras in U.S. History. This year you have studied different eras in U.S. history. An era is a division of time. In this case, a distinct period of history with particular features or characteristics, right? You are going to analyze and distinguish characteristics of the historical eras you have studied this year. So the first thing we have to do is we open the collected evidence graphic organizer, right? You can click it and download it here. Pretty easy. It'll pop up and it will prompt you and it'll open up a Word document. So we'll just let that load right now. Perfect. Here we go. Collecting the eras in U.S. history. So here we've got two eras here in U.S. history. I'll snap this window to the side so we can read them both here with the directions. So once you've opened it up, right, you are going to analyze and distinguish characteristics of the historical eras you have studied this year. So you open it up. Right, there are three folders, right, two folders really. Right, file 1, file 2. Right, so we're going over two different eras here that are represented. Right, each of these files has economic, social, political, and environmental artifacts of an era. However, right, the era's name is not given to you. So your task when you're doing this assignment is to examine the artifacts in each file in order to determine and make your best guess as to what the era is. So we'll start with file 1. We open up file 1, file fun. Oh boy. Take a look here. All right. So we have, this looks a lot like the 1970s to the 1990s. This is, right, the decade of social change and reform, 1970s to 1990s, right? So they pick Watergate as a political. Now we need something that would be economic. Globalization. This idea that we're now buying and moving goods all throughout the world. Right? Globalization would be economic, right? Again, we're supposed to put an ESPN factor. So you pick something and then you assign it economic, social, political, or environmental. Economic, right? Then we need a social. Issue here. So please mute ourselves. Need a social issue here. For the social issue, right, we could easily do the social issue. We could do let's do moral majority, right? This was the coalition of evangelicals during the 1980s conservative turn. Moral majority, right? During Reagan's era, social. Political, we could do the Iran-Contra affair. That also happened, right? That's where we were selling weapons to Iran. Then with the profits, we were giving that money to the Contras in the hope that Hezbollah would release U.S. hostages. Right, so Iran-Contra affair, this is where Oliver North went down. Political. And then finally, economic, social, political. We need an environmental one. Let's take a look. Environmental. We could do Environmental Protection Agency, right? The EPA is formed in 1972 under Nixon. Okay, so that's file 1. Now we're on to file numero dos. All right, so number 2, this would definitely be 21st century. So this is everything that's happened after the year 2000. 21st century, right? The Hurricane Katrina hitting, right, in 2005, hitting New Orleans. That would be an example of an environmental disaster. Hurricane Katrina. Environmental. Okay. Let's make sure we spell environmental correctly here. Oopsie poodle. A political issue here would be the election of 2000, right? This is that contested election between George Bush and Al Gore. You could do political there. The 2008 financial crisis, the subprime mortgage crisis that drove America into huge, dire economic straits. You could do the 2008 financial crisis. That would be economic. The second biggest economic downturn until the coronavirus pandemic. What do we need? We need social. The internet, right? It's going to massively facilitate social activity. Internet, social. And then finally, we could do something like 9/11 was a political event, right? That terrorist attack that happened where we had 2 planes hit the trade towers. We had 2 planes hit the trade towers. We had 1 plane hit the Pentagon and 1 plane crash in the fields.